Hi, welcome to my living room again. This is a pre-record, so you can play it anytime you like and follow along with it. So without any further ado, let's get going. I'll put that down so you can see my feet. We'll start off with the body. Feeling the feet on the ground. Bring the mind or the awareness into the sensations in the feet. Soften the feet, you can wiggle the toes, let them spread, and let your awareness grow in the feet. Feel the whole flat of the foot on the ground, with emphasis on the ball, the heel, and the outside edge. And to engage the outside edge, remember you may need to open up the thigh bones, rolling them open, which will push the knees slightly out, and this will engage the curvature of the foot and give you a really nice stable base, because we want the base to be there so we can lift the body up, tighten the muscles very lightly to give a feeling of stretching and lifting the sternum, dropping the chin to stretch the back of the neck and plucking the body up. This is like an elastic band opened up just to a point where it's stretchy, and then we want to let it come back into itself. So the body's like that, we lift. You can feel the stretch and the tension of that stretch on the tissues, and then we want the tissues to soften. In that alignment, we soften and find our feet. Just going to let ourselves stand and let the muscles organize so the bones carry the weight, the force of the weight of the body, and the muscles around bones can relax as much as possible. You will feel pressures, you will feel fullness in the muscles, and you want to identify the sensations. So experience the sensations and listen and feel where in the body you can let go. So we start with the brow, take the mind to the brow and soften and unwrinkle the brow. Let the brow be open and quiet. Same around the tiny muscles around the eyes. Let the eyeballs relax where they are in the sockets. Brow open, the muscles of the eyes relax, the muscles of the jaw soft with the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Feel that softness come into the face. Quality of receptivity. Same going down through the neck. Let the neck feel expanded into the shoulders. Soften the chest, the abdomen, diaphragm, and the belly. As you soften these areas, you may notice the spine just changes shape. What we're trying to do is drop the spine, the center of gravity, away from the crown of the head. Soften the groin, soften the buttocks. Let the weight of the body go through the hip joints, weight of the upper body through the hip joints into the thighs. Let the thighs receive your body weight. You want to feel like the knees are pushing down into the ground. So this part of your leg is like a stake on the ground, pushed into the ground, that your body weight can rest on the knees. Nice and stable and soft and upright. With the mind, with the intention, we're constantly adding a trickle intention of letting go. Not just we're standing like a lemon, we're actively listening for places we can release and allowing the frame of the body to change its shape. You won't see much from the outside. On the inside, you can feel a lot. We stand for a minute or two because there are places in the body which come into our awareness over time. Maybe they're hidden at the beginning, or maybe we're just not even feeling the sensations, and then as we go deeper, as we go quieter and stiller, they come into our awareness. As parts of the body come into our awareness that feel held or tight, we can let them go. And we're trying to channel the force of the weight of the body down through the bones and into the ground. So there's two aspects to it. One is letting go, letting the thighs in particular receive our body weight. The other is organizing our uprightness, letting the kinks in the spine release. The muscles that hold us in a shape release so the spine can soften, straighten, and find a better conduit for passing the force of the weight of the body down. Then we'll do the beginning movement of the form. There's a very, very small increase in fullness or increase in contraction in the legs. This comes up through the body. So we're lifting ourselves up maybe a centimetre, really slowly, really finely. At the same time, the arms begin to float up. So by the time I've finished pushing up with the legs, the hands reach the top, one fist apart, and then the body softens. Let the arms go down because of the changes in the body, and the arms are going to follow that movement with everything finishing together, settling into the ground. Initiate a small increase. This is like a bicycle pump filling up. When you blow up an airbed from no air in it, the first few pumps you hardly even notice have an effect on the airbed. This is what we want. The first small amount of contraction to lift us hardly notices. It simply puts us more into an organized frame. And then any more pushing up starts to lift us. We want to try and find the difference between those two places. The first small amount, we reorganize the alignment of the lower back, we reorganize the chest, and that allows the force into the body. The force we're generating in the legs is allowed to pass through into the body. And then when we continue with the legs, the body rises. So it's not that we rise up straight away. This is too fast and too sudden. We want to slowly inflate the body. Two phases. The first phase is to fill, and the second phase is to lift. And then we release. First phase is to soften. Second phase is to drop. First phase is to fill, then movement. First phase is to soften and release on the inside, followed by movement. The knees are bending, the hips are seating, the chest is softening. But before the movement starts, there's a change of muscles. And that change of muscles leads into movement. Think of a car and think of the way a car moves. You have to sit in the car, you have to turn the key, you have to put your foot on the clutch, gear stick, cogs, engage. All this happens before the movement of the car. We want to feel something similar in the mechanism of the working of the muscles that support the body. Just as the car has to engage, the clutch has to engage in order to drive the motor, in order to drive the wheels, the clutch has to engage, so we have to engage the muscles. Then that leads to movement. That's something we can definitely feel, but we won't feel if we rush into it. If we simply move, we won't feel separation between the preparation and what that leads to. So we slow it right down and fill up drop by drop by drop by drop by drop. And with that filling up, we try to organize our upward alignment until inevitably, it turns into movement. Releasing, there's a softening, there's a receptivity, there's a quality of allowing. When we allow, we're open. We're open to change. We're open to what comes next. We haven't got a plan. So at the top, I'm open. It's a quality of softening. That allows the body to come into itself. The movement follows. The movement in the classics say that the movement of the center leads. When the center drops, the rest of the body follows. How does the center drop? Well, when I'm standing like this, the center is held in place. I'm still, the center is held in place. I've got two legs, like an A-frame, with my center balanced on top. The legs have to soften and change in order for the center to drop. The muscles in the legs that are holding me up have to change in order for the center to fall away from the crown of the head. Because if I stay still, the center isn't going to move. If I bend my knees, that's not the center moving. That's the whole body going up and down. What I want is the center to drop. That will stretch the spine like pulling on a shirt. Spine will stretch. I want to drop the center, not lower the center. And in your practice, you have to determine the difference between dropping the center, which is an internal process of melting the muscles, and lowering the center, which is an external process of going down. Now, both can overlap and both can have a little bit happening at the same time, but how we manage our body, how we manage the movement in our body is different. Melting the muscles allows the softening so the weight of the center can drop. The softening of the muscles, when a muscle relaxes, it softens, it allows more movement. When a muscle is contracted or held, the muscle fibers shorten. And this creates a bonding and a tension around the bones and the ligaments that hold it in place. It's like wrapping. You see sometimes when people have sprained their wrist, they'll wear a wrist support. And that support, or you see it on the knees, around the knees. Often in yoga classes or in gyms, you see people with these kind of lycra supports around the knees and the elbows too. This is doing the same as the muscles. It's giving support to the joint, so the joint has less movement. And this is exactly what we want when we want to try and stabilize a joint from the outside. But in our Tai Chi, rather than stabilize the joint to make the hands strong, we want to have good alignment. We want the alignments to be clear so the force can go through with the muscles staying as soft as possible. The soft muscles allow for movement. The alignment and softening of the muscles allow the forces to transfer. So force will transfer through a block of wood that isn't changing. When you tap one end, you can feel it on the other end. But if someone pushes into a block of wood, they also can push. So if I'm like a block of wood, someone can push me, which isn't so good. I want someone to be able to push me and I'm soft and not giving them substance to balance on or to support themselves on. I want to yield. So my idea is to stay soft, but to stay organized, to flow with the changes, but not lose my center. These are the principles for push hands, principles for Tai Chi. So in our up and down exercise, when we lift the hands, this is the beginning of the form. We start connected. We engage the muscles until we just feel the body lifting. And we keep pushing up the whole time. We release the shoulders and the arms by sinking the center. You must ensure that the center drops ahead of the shoulder. At the same time is okay, but ideally the center drops and then the upper body follows. So we have a river. We have the balanced shoulder girdle floating. When the water table drops, so too does the weight of the shoulders, because it's now got somewhere to sink towards. This is something we can feel and something we want to try and train. So resist the temptation to move the hands. If you move the hands or focus on the hands, you'll have less focus on the shoulders. Place your focus on the center sinking, which means softening the thighs, the hip joints and the lower back, feeling the feet connect better onto the ground, and let the shoulders follow that movement. Regardless of what the hands do, let the shoulders follow that movement, because if the shoulders drop, you can guarantee the elbow will drop. And if the elbow drops, the hand's dropping. But it's not this. This is the shoulder moving. This is the elbow bending. This is like lowering myself rather than dropping. When base changes, the shoulders drop. And the base continues to change, everything arrives together. And the body's lightly pressed onto the ground, away from the head top. That's practice, please, enough explanation. So you've something to focus on for coming up. Without stopping at the top, the base flows down. You've something to focus on for sinking. Now, the way Tai Chi works is it gives us something to focus on that's slightly further away than we're able to do comfortably. What that means is this is difficult, and to find it, I have to find a different, I have to come at it from a different place than my normal everyday mind, because my normal everyday mind does movement. I have to quieten down. I have to listen to the sensations of the body. I have to operate from a different place in myself to find what I'm looking for. And in your Tai Chi, your training, what you're training and your method that you're training, the training techniques, if you like, should be like a carrot, just slightly ahead of you. So you're not chasing it's the wrong word. Something you're fascinated in and start to ask questions about. Now, this is interesting. I seem to be doing something quite different when I move, and I'm being asked to do something new or something that's complicated. How can I bridge that gap? And in that process of bridging the gap is the training. So if you're still doing the same things in your Tai Chi year on year on year, it doesn't become like a carrot anymore. You've caught the carrot and you're eating it. What you want is a fresh carrot that's just slightly out of reach. And as you get more refined, as you get more understanding in your practice, a new carrot, a new carrot, a new carrot, pulling you towards a deeper understanding of your practice. Now let's put some of that into the 5 loosening exercises. Starting posture. Feet are parallel, shoulder width apart. The arms are out to 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Make sure they're not opposite, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Make sure they're to the front, palm down. There's a point, if I open my arm up any further, that's 1 o'clock. If I go to 1:30 or 2 o'clock, I'm just starting to feel a little bit of tension in my shoulder. That's too far, because that starts to restrict the movement. When the bones are pushed against the muscles start to feel held. It's like that idea of having a wrap around the elbow or the wrist or the knee. You don't want the muscles to be pushed into any place where they feel dense and tight and held. And you can feel that quite easily by opening your arm up. You start to get that feeling in the shoulder blade. So bring it back in where the shoulder blade and the muscles surrounding the shoulder blade can be soft. That's the place you lift to. And this place we do all the time in the form when we sit back here. In roll back, we turn open. That's the same place I lift to. Do you see? I'm turning the body and it looks like my arm is going behind. If I leave my arm there and I turn back to face you, it's exactly the same position. It's not behind or to the side. So what I'm not doing is this. So when I do that, I can feel that tension in my shoulder when I come around my arms to the side. I can't lift it any more than that because it's locked. You know, locks in Tai Chi don't go together unless it's your training partner and you've locked them up, in which case that's what you want to do. But in your own body, you don't want to lock yourself up. The first movement takes place without any visible movement. There's a letting go process. Just like here, when we let go, we want to find the same process in the letting go as we do when we do this exercise. In this exercise, it's simply down and the hands by the side. Here, it's the same internal process, but my center's moving across to the foot and my upper body's following and I'm turning. Turn back. It's the same process. I don't just lift because I miss the beginning. I fill up gradually. I fill up from the ground, which inflates the body slightly with full muscles until I get to a point where I have to move. And I carry on moving with all the movement of lifting, finishing here, just like this exercise, finishing here. Now I'm repeating this, and I know you've heard it before, but I want to make sure that this actually happens as much as feasibly possible in your training. So you don't forget it and you don't miss it or work on something else, because it's really important. Okay, so soften on the inside, receive, open, 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 receive. let gravity press you in. Feel that as an expression of force in the sole of the foot, traveling down the line like water flowing in that you then follow with movement. In this position, I already have 50% of my stability in each leg, like an A-frame with the center on top. 50% in my left, 50% in my right. When I sink, I want to add to that 50%. I don't want to move across, turn, and then look for stability. I've got half my stability. I just need to drop onto it more. I need to use that stability I've got to release the rest of my body onto. So by the time I get over here, I've got about 90% of my weight on the left leg. Activate the muscles. The waist turns, body lifts. Finish the lift. Take your mind quickly to the opposite side. Feel your support. Receive and move. Fill up and move. Let your mind to the opposite leg. Feel your support. Feel your connected posture. Make sure coming up hasn't thrown you out of alignment. That you're not all up in the air. You're simply turned open, connected, ready to release and move. If the shoulders are following the base, then the whole arm is governed by the changes in the shoulders. The elbow is governed by the changes in the shoulders. The wrist is governed by the elbow. When I see people do this movement, the arms are too loose. This is not connected to what the changes that are taking place in the body. I want to unify, put it this way, the whole practice of Tai Chi is to make my whole being, my mind, my body, my emotions, all the parts that make me up, unified. Okay, so when I have a strong intention, my body follows it, my emotions follow it. Yes, it's definite and it's clear. This is the practice will direct us towards having very clear focus. Then I can put that into any motivation in my life, whatever I do, whatever I want to achieve, my whole being knows the quality I need to be in to do the best in that. I'm becoming one rather than being fragmented. We all know what it feels like to be kind of disorientated from our bodies, disengaged from our bodies, and we want to come into centeredness. This is what our practice of Tai Chi is really useful for. So, movement in the arms is disconnected. This is too soft. The hand is moving because of the muscles inside the arm contracting. This movement is a contraction. It's lifting the arm. It's pulling on the muscles to tighten and shorten to draw the arm in. What I want is I want the shoulder to drop, the arm to elbow to drop, the hand to drop. This is the same movement as this. exercise, which is why we spent 10 minutes at the beginning doing it. Here, this movement of the shoulders is going to follow what I do with the thighs. When I soften the thighs, I feel the feet. There's my feet. There's my feet. I feel the lower back release. Then the shoulders can follow. So at this level of Taiji we're practicing, we're looking at how the body can be synchronized. Synchronized is different from coordinated. Coordinated means everything arrives at the same time. Okay, so an example of everything arriving at the same time is the different parts of the body. The waist arrives at the same time as the hand arrives, at the same time that the alignments arrive, the posture finishes. So it's like the hands of a clock, everything coming together at 12 o'clock. One hand going fast, one hand going slower, second hand going really fast, but everything comes together and arrives. All the different parts of the body arrive. That is coordinated. Synchronized is coordinated plus. Synchronized means that when one part of the body moves, the next part follows it, and the next part follows it, and the next part follows it. The best way to be synchronized is to feel the sensations of the body. So if I pull on a wire, the whole thing moves. I don't know if I just turn myself off recording then. No, it's still recording. I pull on a wire, the whole thing moves. I pull on an elastic band, this moves first. And then at some point when the stretch occurs, this one follows. That is synchronized. Okay, it's not locked together. This is coordinated. When one moves, the other follows it. Synchronized, when one moves, there's a sensation and a force along the elastic band, and it draws the other one along. This one is synchronized to the leading movement. Okay, the leading movement is the base. The leading movement is the melting of the thighs, the softening of the muscles that hold the hip joints, the softening of the muscles around the lower back that allow the knees to bend, the bones of the thigh to receive the, to receive the weight of the body. This is the leading movement. The rest of the body is drawn along and follows it. This is what we want to try and find here. Now, I'm just going to qualify this because this is a relatively intermediate process to train. And if you're not aligned, if you're not connected, if you're not grounded, and if you're not upright, and if you're not accurate in your movements, you need to train these things first before synchronization. I'm going to say that again in a different way. If you're upright, it's very easy to let the muscles hang off the frame because you're working with gravity. If you're tight in your body or misaligned, and a lot of people bring their knee in here, and you can feel when the knee comes in, you'll feel the tension of the bones pushing the muscles into a tighter and ligaments into a tighter position where they have to bind. So if your knee comes in, that's what you need to work with, the basics first. Build the building blocks up. Because if the foundation isn't strong, you can't go higher. Like building a house. If the foundation isn't strong, you can't get higher and higher with the stages. So you need a good foundation, making sure the knee doesn't collapse as you turn, making sure the hips and the center turn together. You don't lead with a twist of the upper body. You don't get these twists coming into your shirt as you move. You move your hips and the upper body follows it. Okay. A lot of people move without upper body in this type of movement. Fix the basics, train the basics. Doesn't matter how long it takes for the basics to establish. Slow is fast in Tai Chi. I'm going to look at the arm movements. So this class is becoming all about being synchronized in exercise number 1 in detail. The shoulder knuckle always stays connected to the bone. So the bone of the arm, it's got a ball on the end of it, and it sits in the shoulder scapula, like that. It must never move. It stays in place. So that means that in Tai Chi, when I do this, I'm actually disconnected. What I want to be is dropped in and buoyant and connected. So when I move my arms forward, I don't want this to come out. I don't want to tighten these muscles here by pushing this forwards. When I bring my hand forward, I want the crease of the hand to stay in exactly the same place. I put the crease of my arm next to the curtain behind, and I push my arm out. Crease stays in the same place. That's at 90 degrees, which is the push position. When I push the hand forward, the crease stays in the same place. The hands move this much, but it isn't this. This is pushing this forwards, pushing this out of alignment. You could try this. You can try this yourself. What I want to do is at the same time as the hand goes forward, the shoulder sits. So it's like, this is like a piece of paper that's opening up this way. This is the elbow joint, this is the hand, this is the shoulder. The shoulder goes down, the hand goes out, the elbow folds. The elbow goes from 90 degrees to a little bit straighter, but it doesn't go straighter by going forwards. Shoulder drops. When the shoulder drops, there's a pivot point about here that the elbow, so this is like a balance. If the pivot point's here, that's what I'm looking for. It's not in the middle. It's here. So the movement of the shoulder is small and the movement of the elbow coming up is big. So the movement of the elbow coming up is big and the movement of the shoulder down is small because the pivot point is about here. Now, this is the theory. What you have to feel is the sensations of that. You have to feel the control of the muscles so that when you go to lift the arm, you're not doing this. When you go to lift the arm, you're not doing this. Look at my shoulder. When you go to lift the arm, the shoulders drop. Dropping means they stay connected. They stay connected. It's like a cork floating on water. The cork doesn't want to jump off the water surface. When the forces of the water move, the cork stays connected to it wherever it goes. So when forces rise through my body, it doesn't want to lift my shoulder. I don't want to add to it with the tension of the weight of the arm and the muscles that normally lift the arm up. I want to just use enough force to keep the connection of the arm in place. So when I lift my arms up, the change in the joint enables the force that's rising up as I'm pushing up to pass through this joint, pass through the shoulder and travel along the arm. It's like a gateway, okay? If I tighten the muscle and lift the shoulder to lift the arm, this doesn't allow the force that's rising to go anywhere because it disconnects the shoulder from that force. So the force can't go through. The shoulder is like a floating cork on the rib cage. When the force rises, it comes out. We can try that against the wall. So when we take this position here, when I drop the shoulder, following the sinking of the base, I should feel very connected between my hands and my feet. When I push out with the arms and don't change the base and don't change the shoulders, when I just use my arms to push out, it'll push me away from the wall. So there are two ways of pushing. One is by using the muscles inside the arms, which is the same as lifting the shoulders, and that pushes me away. But when I drop the shoulders and sink, the connection between my hands and my body get very strong and I stay in the same place, but the force between the hands and the feet increases. And I need to find this force to push. Find the force of the ground to push. In the first loosening exercise, when I drop my arms, I'm working with dropping my center, letting the shoulders follow, letting the elbows and wrists follow that movement. What helps? Keeping the arms very long, keeping the arms long, not holding them short, not holding them short. This is short, keeping the arms really long. So when they drop, they're at their full length. And then when the elbow stays in place and the hand lifts. This movement, not this movement. Don't bring the elbow in. Keep the elbow vertical. Let the arm swing up. This movement, not this movement. One more thing that's important, and that's stability. If I let the whole body weight drop, you'll feel it hard in the ankle and the foot. you'll feel it hard in the ankle. What I want to try and do is fall away from the crown of the head. So my stability moves towards the foot, and the rest of the body then follows that. I don't move like a block. I don't move like a concertina where everything is going into the foot. I try and move this bit first and this bit follows it, synchronized. So I try to flow down to the foot inside, feel that I've got a little bit more grounding, and then move on to it. And that way, I'm not dropping and I'm not lowering myself towards the foot. But the difference is, try not to lower yourself to the foot, because your ankle will get tight and you'll get pressed onto the ground, and that doesn't make you stable. What makes you stable is falling away like a hollow tube through you and then moving it. And now I'm nice and light and stable and relaxed, and I don't feel all that tension in the ankle. And here, instead of moving and lowering myself, which is what most people do for a long time, bend the knee, lower the body, press onto the foot quite hard, fall away, and follow. Fall away, and follow. This generally keeps your head top much more at the same height. And the up and down is inside the body, not the body going up and down. Let's do a little bit of that training. I don't expect everybody to find this straight away, but there'll be some movements of the form where falling away of the center feels stronger. And then you just bring that feeling into the exercise. You understand it from one exercise. It might be white crane spreads wings on one leg, where you can fall away from the crown of the head. It might be the beginning moving to the form, where you can feel the thighs softening and the center falls away. However it is, you don't want the density of the body lowering itself onto the foot, because this will lock us up. This will create tension in the body, and you feel tension by a stronger sensation in the muscles. So that's a small and quite precise focus on how we're training at the moment, and what we do in the form and how we bring it into one of the exercises. And what I'd recommend is not trying to dive really deep at the beginning. Give yourself a few minutes of simply running through the basics. Am I upright? Question, am I upright? Question, is my knee in alignment when I move? Do half a dozen turns each way. Does the weight stay in the same part of the foot? Is my knee collapsing in? Is my weight going onto the inside edge of the foot? Just question yourself, feel the answer. Next question, are my hips leading, or am I leading with the upper body? Am I getting a twist through my body? Just a question. Feel what you're doing. Next question, are my movements smooth and my hips staying level? Just check. If you find you're not, correct it. If you find you can't correct it, stay with that. Stay with it. Next one. Do I feel stable and grounded, connected in the posture I'm moving into? And if you feel tight and held in body, stay with that for a bit and explore it. Let your practice be an exploration of how you can move and maintain what you're looking for. Don't set yourself up to fail, which I mean is don't have expectations of perfection. Just see how it is. Just feel the sensations in your body and what you're doing right now. And ask yourself, can I bring any change to what I have? Doesn't matter if it's a small change, big change, but it's not towards perfectionism, because you'll be disappointed. Tai Chi isn't about being perfect. It's about being present and about being genuine. And none of us are perfect the whole time, far from it. We all have an ability, and we need to be with who we are and what we can manage and what we can do for our age, our health, and our stamina and our commitment. We need to be with ourselves, not trying to be somebody else. Don't let your postures look like someone else. Feel your postures yourself and let your body tell you the answers. Sometimes those answers are vague, and sometimes you have to keep asking the same question again and again and again to get a reply. But eventually, you have these little aha moments in Tai Chi. And I had someone in the class the other day, and he said, I've been doing Tai Chi 10, 15 years. I've only just realized that the hand is palm down here. I said, well, I've been saying it for a very, very long time. But it's really funny how parts of the mind and the body all of a sudden get something. All of a sudden. And you may have to hear it hundreds and hundreds of times. And my job as an instructor is to keep repeating it. Keep telling you it's possible. It's available. Your body can manage to find these things. You have to find a way to allow it to happen. So please enjoy your first loosening exercise. Take your time with the exercise. Remember, what you're doing is analyzing and being with yourself. We use the exercise as a method to be with ourselves and to learn about ourselves and to change the quality of how we hold ourselves, who we think we are, what we think we are, what we think we can accomplish. We change the quality. So don't think it's about the first loosening exercise. Think of your practice, whether it's the exercises or the form, is an exploration of yourself, the way you are with yourself. Both in body and mind and emotion. Thank you.